In the heart of Rome, a building has stood for nearly 2,000 years without a single crack running through its massive dome. The Pantheon, completed around 126 AD under Emperor Hadrian, still holds the record for the largest unreinforced concrete dome ever built. Tourists walk beneath it every day, rarely pausing to consider that the material above their heads has outlasted every empire, every war, every climate shift since the fall of Rome itself. Meanwhile, the concrete overpass you drove under this morning is probably scheduled for demolition before your grandchildren are born. Something has gone deeply wrong with the way we build, and the evidence has been hiding in plain sight for 20 centuries. Along the coast of Italy, the ancient harbors of Portus Cosinus and Baiae sit partially submerged in the Mediterranean Sea. Salt water should have eaten them alive. Corrosive brine, relentless tides, and 2 millennia of storms should have reduced those piers to rubble long ago. Instead, divers and geologists who have studied these structures report something that sounds impossible. The concrete is not just surviving, it is actively growing stronger. Every passing decade, rare mineral crystals continue to form within the matrix, reinforcing the stone from the inside out. These harbors were built before Christ was born, and they are tougher today than the day the Romans poured them. Now contrast that with modern America. The United States spends more than $100 billion every year repairing concrete infrastructure. Highways crumble after 30 years. Bridges require constant monitoring and replacement after 50 years. Parking garages in coastal cities begin spalling within 2 decades. Nuclear containment structures, dams, airport runways, and skyscraper foundations all share a single weakness. The moment water finds a crack, the decay begins, and nothing stops it. We have somehow managed to invent a version of concrete that is demonstrably worse than what farmers and slaves were mixing by hand 2,000 years ago. The question is why, and the answer is more troubling than most people realize. The Roman recipe was not a secret. The engineer Vitruvius wrote it down in his treatise De Architectura during the reign of Augustus. It used quicklime, volcanic ash known as pozzolana from the Bay of Naples, seawater when available, and chunks of volcanic tuff for the aggregate. He specified the ratios precisely. 1 part lime to 3 parts pozzolana for standard buildings, and a richer 1:2 mix for marine structures that would face the sea. Pliny the Elder, writing decades later, described the marine concrete as becoming a single stone mass, impregnable to the waves and growing stronger with every passing day. These were not mystical claims, they were engineering observations. The Romans knew exactly what they had. Construction crews hand-packed this thick, stiff paste into wooden forms, layer by layer, sometimes working across decades on a single monument. The Colosseum, the aqueducts of Segovia, the great baths of Caracalla, and hundreds of lesser-known structures all emerged from this patient, deliberate process. The material cured slowly, over months and years, developing a microstructure so complex that scientists are only now beginning to understand it. For most of modern history, researchers looking at Roman concrete under microscopes noticed something strange. Small white chunks, a few millimeters across, were scattered throughout the matrix. For centuries, these were dismissed as evidence of sloppy mixing. Roman workers, the thinking went, simply failed to fully slake their lime, leaving embarrassing white blemishes throughout their otherwise impressive construction. It was a convenient story, and it was completely wrong. In 2023, a team of researchers at MIT working alongside colleagues at Harvard and laboratories in Italy finally solved the puzzle, and what they found rewrote the textbooks. Those white chunks, which they named lime clasts, are not mistakes. They are the entire point. The Romans were not using slaked lime in a careful, cold mixing process like modern masons. They were using caustic quicklime in a hot mix, a technique so aggressive that it generates dangerous heat as the lime reacts with water. This hot mixing distributes reactive calcium deposits throughout the concrete matrix, seeding the material with thousands of tiny self-healing reservoirs. When a crack eventually forms, rainwater or groundwater seeps in and dissolves the nearest lime clast. The dissolved calcium then recrystallizes as calcium carbonate, sealing the fracture from the inside. Laboratory tests were stunning. Roman formula samples that were cracked in the lab fully healed themselves within 2 weeks, while identical samples made with modern Portland cement never recovered at all. The concrete repairs itself. It has been doing so, quietly, inside the walls of the Pantheon and the foundations of the Forum for 2,000 years. The marine concrete is even more remarkable. When seawater infiltrates Roman pozzolanic concrete, it triggers a slow chemical cascade that modern engineers never imagined possible. The salt interacts with the volcanic ash over centuries to grow rare crystals called aluminum tobermorite and philipsite. These crystals form interlocking structures that physically reinforce the concrete at the molecular level. The material does not merely resist salt water. It consumes salt water, using it as a raw ingredient to construct new internal scaffolding. Researchers at the University of California at Berkeley, who studied samples drilled from Portus Cosanus, confirmed that this crystal growth is still actively occurring today, 2,000 years after the harbor was built. Modern concrete does the exact opposite. Salt water drives corrosion into the embedded steel rebar, causing the steel to expand as it rusts, and that expansion cracks and spalls the surrounding concrete from within. So the obvious question emerges. If Roman concrete heals itself, if it grows stronger in salt water, if it lasts 2,000 years instead of 50, why are we not using it? Why does every highway, bridge, and building in the developed world still rely on a material we know will fail? The answer has less to do with science and more to do with industry, regulation, and money. Modern American and international building codes are written entirely around the chemistry of Portland cement. The standardized 28-day compressive strength test, which determines whether a given batch is legal for construction, assumes rapid curing. Roman concrete takes months or years to reach its full strength. It fails the 28-day test almost every time. That single specification, written into building codes around the world, effectively outlaws the use of Roman methods in any permitted structure. The physical properties create further barriers. Roman concrete is a thick, stiff paste designed to be packed into forms by hand. It cannot be poured from a truck. It cannot be pumped through a hose to the 40th floor of a skyscraper. It cannot be sprayed, troweled, or finished with modern equipment. The pozzolanic reactions that make it self-healing are also incompatible with steel rebar because the alkaline chemistry corrodes modern reinforcement over time. This means Roman concrete cannot support the kind of long-span bridges, tall buildings, and highway overpasses that define modern megaproject construction. The volcanic ash itself is a limitation, because true pozzolana only exists in specific geological regions like central Italy, parts of Greece, and volcanic zones in Japan. There is no practical way to supply the global construction market from a handful of Italian quarries. But the deeper scandal is environmental. Portland cement production is responsible for approximately 8% of all carbon dioxide emissions on Earth. If the global cement industry were a country, it would rank as the third largest polluter in the world, behind only China and the United States as whole nations. Producing 1 kilogram of Portland cement releases roughly 1 kilogram of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, much of it from the high-temperature firing of clinker in rotary kilns that must be heated above 1,400 degrees Celsius. Roman concrete requires no such firing. The slow, low-energy curing process actually absorbs carbon dioxide back into the material over centuries through carbonation, making it closer to carbon neutral than any modern alternative. In an era of climate crisis, we have chosen to keep pouring the more polluting material simply because our factories, our codes, and our supply chains are built around it. The Cement Association of America and its international counterparts lobby aggressively against any formulation that threatens existing manufacturing infrastructure. Portland cement factories represent hundreds of billions of dollars in sunk capital investment that cannot be easily repurposed. Civil engineering programs at major universities teach Portland cement chemistry almost exclusively, leaving new graduates unfamiliar with pozzolanic alternatives. The American Society for Testing and Materials Standards and the American Concrete Institute Code, known as ACI 318, contain no meaningful pathway for approving lime pozzolana construction in most applications. The system is locked in, not by physics, but by policy and inertia. A startup called DMAT, based in Massachusetts, is now selling Roman-inspired self-healing concrete commercially to customers who prioritize longevity over cost. Researchers at the University of Utah and at Berkeley are actively reverse engineering hybrid formulas that blend pozzolanic chemistry with modern performance requirements. Italian restoration teams working on ancient monuments have returned to authentic hot mixing techniques, and several European climate initiatives are funding pilot projects that use lime pozzolana concrete in low-stress infrastructure applications. The knowledge is not lost. It is being rediscovered, one laboratory and one courageous engineer at a time. So to be precise, Roman concrete is not literally illegal. There is no law on the books specifically forbidding its use, but it is effectively banned through specification requirements, through code exclusion, through the inability to pass standardized testing, and through an industry that has every financial reason to keep it on the margins. The Romans built structures meant to outlast their empire by millennia, and they succeeded beyond their wildest imagining. Modern construction is built around speed, low upfront cost, and predictable quarterly returns to shareholders. Durability does not drive recurring revenue. A bridge that lasts 2,000 years is a bridge that nobody has to rebuild, repair, or resurface, and that is a business model the concrete industry simply cannot afford. The Pantheon is still standing. The harbors of Baiae are still growing stronger. The recipe is written down, the chemistry is understood, and the self-healing mechanism has been confirmed in peer-reviewed research at the most prestigious laboratories on Earth. The only thing missing is the will to use it. As carbon regulations tighten, and as the real cost of our crumbling infrastructure becomes impossible to ignore, ancient engineering is quietly re-entering modern construction through the back door. The Romans solved this problem before we were born. The question now is whether we are willing to listen to them before the next bridge falls.